WHGE 95.3 FM coming up, Dove and I. All right. Gonna get them started in a second here. All right. Here we go, y'all. Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego-digging. We do so because the chains of oppression on our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove. All right. Get rid of that candy. Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host and third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs. I'm ready to get them started, soon to be joined by my partner in consciousness, Nsoromma. All right. Let's get them started. Before I really get going here, let me get this disclaimer out the way and this candy out my mouth. Hey, boy, how you doing? All right. The views and opinions expressed on the Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM, nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual. WHGE 95.3 FM. The education advocacy station. Yes, indeed. You know, I'm going to start off with a couple of quotes here from Queen Tracy Johnson, especially considering the climate that we're in. And, you know, people always slip up and say things and what have you. Yes, they slip up. Tracy says, being a racist bigot and getting caught is not a lapse in judgment, a oopsie daisy, or not reflective of my character situation. A lapse in judgment is something temporary when you momentarily show bad judgment. Expressing your bigoted views is not temporary, it's how you feel. The regret comes from your racism coming to light and the subsequent fallout. An oopsie daisy is when you accidentally drop your plate of food or spill your water. Not when you wish harm upon people who do not look or worship like you. Not reflective of one's character is when you respond with cursing after someone almost causes you to crash with your children in the car. You can't say it's not reflective of your character when you verbally or violently lash out at someone because they aren't speaking English. You don't believe they should be in your neighborhood, or you believe in your superiority and express it based upon the color of your skin. Stop the BS. We are not that stupid. That's right, Tracy. We are not that stupid. Hey. All right. This is also from Tracy, from Sister Tracy Johnson. Thank you, Queen. You can't, so you don't negotiate with white supremacy. Everything is strictly black and white. You can't, so you don't appeal to compassion with dealing with white supremacy. Its perception as being fully human is being of European descent. You can't pray away white supremacy. You can try, but over 400 years of prayer hasn't diluted its wickedness. You can't be patient and wait for white supremacy to go away someday. White supremacy is a malignant, aggressive cancer that has diseased all corners of the earth. You can't hope to fall under the radar to appease and assimilate into white supremacy. It is exclusive and non-inclusive to anything different. Just to show some understanding of white supremacy, wouldn't you say? Yeah. You see, some of us, like she said in that last part there, we look for a comfortable niche within the system. We don't look to dismantle the system. See, some of us, we're not real interested in dismantling the system. We just want our turn. Now, I'm talking about black people. We just want our turn to hold the whip. Let me tell you something. This is how it typically goes. Black folks support you, and you become dead. Then you don't want to be black anymore. You chase white acceptance. Yeah. Then when they show you they don't care about you, you want black folks to believe you was fighting for them the whole damn time. Like hell. You sold out and it went wrong. Yeah, that's what happened. I'll tell you somebody that never sold out. He never changed his music or his performance or the way he carried himself to fit in. Really. Even though he was well liked by the mainstream, by white society, just speaks volumes to his talent. There's something you have to understand. James Brown was not put together in a studio by a promoter, like most of these handmade groups that are out here today. James Brown was born out of a need to survive. He didn't start dancing because he liked to dance. He did it to get nickels and dimes from soldiers. I mean, that's what this kid did. He came from nothing. Brown was notoriously meticulous with the development of his career, writing, recording, touring, and performing 6 nights a week. Hardest working man in show business. And he demanded the same loyalty, attention to detail, and work ethic from everyone on his team, from the backup dancers to his percussionists. In fact, he would fine his band members for missing notes or performing with on-shine shoes. He was hard-headed and he was a perfectionist. And I found the people around him to be very professional, even subservient. In his presence, everyone referred to him as Mr. Brown or Mr. James Brown. No one called him James, no one. And he treated people with the same respect. Everyone was a Mr. or a Ms. That's from Katarina Nymph in Vogue. All right. Let's keep it moving. You know, there are 6 essential qualities that are key to success. Sincerity, personal integrity, humility, courtesy, wisdom, and charity. These are very true words, but very difficult qualities to employ when one is sincerely living in fear. When the choices are integrity or a meal. When humility becomes the humiliation of sitting in the crowded social service waiting room. When courtesy is only extended to those that can afford it. And when wisdom is exhausted by the struggle to survive. And when charity is the change you drop in the jar at the latest memorial for the latest young victim of race soldiers. This is the Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Oh, yes indeed, coming right back at you. Here we go, here we go. Yeah. Wait a minute, there, no. Okay, yes. Little musical break, y'all. All right. WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming back with Nsoromma. Thank you. Yeah, hit the blue one. All right. Oh, that bottom is so sensitive. I know. Be all right. All right. Put you on in the house. No. All right. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Getting right back at you. All right, and being joined in the studio by my partner in consciousness, our intellectual surgeon, Nsoromma. What's up, brother?
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, chop. All right.
Good morning, world. Good morning.
Yes, indeed. We get it going. We got it going.
Yep. Keep going.
All right. Look, we're going to start here with the doctrine of discovery, which is a systemically racist doctrine.
Right.
Okay? And this was the doctrine of discovery from the papal bull from Pope Nicholas V in 1452. This is what it says. Invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ wheresoever placed, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable objects, goods whatsoever held and possessed by them, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and their use and profit. So with this European devil, who is the leader of the European church, is basically saying is, if you're not a white European, then we need to subjugate you and force you into perpetual enslavement. Dr. Clark teaches us the aftermath of the slave trade might be worse than the trade itself, mainly because of the major participants in the trade have made a mission out of lying about their participation in this, the greatest of all human tragedies. In the last 20 years, the academic interpreters of the Atlantic slave trade have been pointing their fingers at African participants. And this is something that has come up lately with the release of the movie, The Woman King, where the tribe of the Dahomey participated in the slave trade. And this gave Western academics and scholars what they thought was fuel to blame Africans for their own damn enslavement. You know, it's something, like I said, they've been pointing their fingers at the African participants as though the trade could not have existed without them. Any honest researcher familiar with the documents knows that the role of the African was minor in comparison to that of the European and the Arab. The Atlantic slave trade was a three-continent industry that affected a revolution in shipping, in economics, and in world trade. Africans did not have this kind of connection at this juncture in history. And besides, the slave trade was mainly a European and an Arab business. I do not in any way intend to free Africans of any guilt for their participation in the trade. Their involvement was tragic, misguided, and not without significance. But the slave trade would have occurred whether the African participated or not. Okay? Understand that. Okay? Whether they participated or not, it would have went on. It was the beginning of global white supremacy. And global white supremacy is an evil system based on the subjugation, murder of black people, primarily. Now, I know a lot of people want to say, well, people of color. No. Okay, there were people of color that were subjugated. They were murdered. Of course, the Native American, there's 100 million Native Americans on the North American continent when the European came here. Within less than 100 years, they had murdered 98% of them. And then went into Africa and enslaved black people to work the land. And the craziest thing, and it's very interesting, is that ever since we have escaped, fought against, and put down chattel slavery, removed the chains of chattel slavery.
Right.
Okay. White society defines black people and defines it as part of our culture that we're lazy. So anytime you don't want to work for free or for slave wages, especially as a black person, you're lazy. Ain't that some crap? How the hell they come up with this mess?
I mean, I've never been lazy a day in my life.
No.
And I know a lot of people around me that's not lazy also. So
right. And we don't come from a lazy people.
That's what they make a lot of false myths and false narratives about us anyway.
Yes, indeed.
So I mean, you can't believe everything you read or hear.
No.
So
no,
it's all in.
Definitely cannot.
That's what's going on. The manipulation is having people to believe and what they read and what they hear, and that media, that
propaganda.
The propaganda, your
right.
favorite thing you always say. That's what keep it alive so well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the reason that we do what we do, because we understand that we have to control the propaganda that reaches our community. We have to educate and pull people out of the indoctrination that global white supremacy has placed so many of our people in.
The truth hurts.
Yes, it does.
That's where it comes from. I mean, even some of our truths hurt, but the supremacists, their truth really hurt.
Yes.
And they really don't want it to come out because it really show you part of them. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, they don't want the truth to come out. You know what? Let me get to this. Because okay. I was gonna hit this first, but I'm gonna hit this right now. Okay.
Okay.
And you know what qualified immunity is? Okay. It's something that one of the things that with the incoming of Biden to the presidency,
right,
and the Democrats controlling the House and the Senate, now they just control the Senate, okay? is that one of the things that black people were asking for, were demanding, was that they remove qualified immunity, from the American system, from the American justice system. Qualified immunity is a defense that shields officials from being sued, and has been interpreted so by the courts so broadly that it allows police to engage in unconstitutional acts with immunity.
It's called murder.
It's called murder.
With immunity.
With immunity.
Yeah, that's wrong. How can we have a system that is able to murder you and not be held accountable?
Right.
And not only is that reckless, is dangerous.
It's damn right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when you respond to this rogue cop, this supremacist,
right? This
rogue
white
supremacist,
yeah,
that has this uniform on that's supposed to be representing all of us, want to kill you, and you kill them. Then what?
Then what?
Then what? How are you looked at?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. You know, it makes me think of what happened that time with Tupac, when he saw what he didn't know were undercover cops,
right,
attacking a black man, and he shot both of them.
Right. And that's the way we got to think, and we got to roll, because if you ain't identifying yourself and you beating up my son, I'm going to respond to you. I don't care if you got a uniform on or not.
And that's what
That's not the law.
And for the record, so that people know, okay, when this came up in court, and Tupac showed that, one, these men did not identify themselves, two, they were abusing people, three, it is the law. It is under the law that you can defend someone that is being attacked. And that's what he did. And they said, hey, he was right. They let him go scot-free, as well they should have.
Right. And I mean, that's the way we got to start attacking them, with the law they attack us with.
That's it.
You know, the law is the law. And that's how we never have the grounds to stand on, because we don't structure our stuff within the side of the law.
Mm-hmm.
We always go off on emotions,
right?
You know, and our emotions get us locked up, resisting arrest, and all of that. So we have to be smarter. We have to fight them with their own game.
That's word. That's word. Now, qualified immunity actually started as the Casual Killing Act of 1669. This act was actually created because of the rate at which white women were killing enslaved children and women.
Wow.
Sisters in the feminist movement, how many times have I told you?
Wow.
These white women are not your friends and never have been.
Wow.
Some of the literature states that the rate of murder in gruesomeness and the slaughter of babies, primarily girl babies because the boys were sold, that these actions were reaching such a height that it was drawing the attention of the courts in the North, and evidently there was talk of prosecuting these white women. Okay, the casual killing law was a law enacted during slavery to protect primarily white women from criminal punishment for the death of slaves while correcting them for minor infractions such as spilling a mint julep. Upon deeper research, it was discovered that the law was actually created, like I said, particularly for white women who were ever increasing amount of slaves dying under their watch. Upon deeper investigation, it revealed that it was small black children that white women were murdering in record numbers.
Wow.
During the course of correcting them, beating them to death.
Now, what kind of society would take and create a clause that protects that kind of person?
That's word. Global white supremacy in its most blatant evilness.
I mean, you really have to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, some of the stuff that it's just mind-boggling.
You know, can you imagine the horror of being beat to death, and you're a child? It was a horror just to get a spanking, which was done by parents that weren't abusive.
I mean, some kids needs a spanking. I was growing up on spankings. If I didn't get spankings, I would be in prison.
Man,
just that simple.
That simple.
I respect the hand. Don't bite the hand that feeds you theory.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So until you 18 or until you old enough to feel as though you can go take care and feed yourself, you're under my supervision, and these rules apply.
That's right.
And if you don't like it, you can leave. The door is open now, and that's how it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I was raised. And you couldn't leave because there wasn't nowhere to go.
Right.
You know,
and you didn't have to worry
because you'll be in jail.
That's right.
It was a time that you couldn't even miss school. Police officers would ask you what you're doing out of school and all of that. So you had to hide when you did hooky from school. So now it's okay for them to hooky. I mean, it's all kind of stuff, man.
That's going on. And people aren't being disciplined for it. Brother Vaughn, who came up, he was primarily a good kid.
Right.
He said he got 2 whippings in his life. Man, I got 2 whippings before noon.
Right. Every day.
That's word. I got 2 whippings before noon. Good time. That's word.
Different caliber kid, though. That's all that big.
And like you said, I'll tell you a couple of things. 1, I ain't scared of nobody. 2, I damn sure know right from wrong.
Right.
And like you said, I ain't never been in jail.
Right.
But this was proper discipline.
Right. Proper discipline.
Done with love.
Yeah.
Now, these white women, their motivation was that often the children that they murdered were the children of their husband and the slave woman, the black woman that was enslaved, that he raped. And these children were put in the houses as house servants. White women were the greatest antagonizers, aggressors, and abusers of black children during slavery and responsible for the majority of their deaths, to the point that they had to enact a law. That's how deep that is.
Wow. That
they had to enact a law. Now, what happened was the Casual Killing Act, which was instituted and then extended to the hundreds of people who were desperately trying to escape their captors and their torture. And that was called the Fugitive Slave Act, or the Fugitive Slave Law. And then when slavery was, quote unquote, abolished, because we know it really just evolved, it was never actually abolished, okay? It might have been abolished from law, but it was not abolished from the heart of white supremacy. And they persisted in pursuing the murder of black people through the black codes and Jim Crow laws. These deputies were empowered to kill people who resisted. What we always tell them. When you hear a cop say, stop resisting, your life is in danger.
That's right.
Okay? Now, when you hear these stories and your first reaction is prove it, then you're a big part of the problem, and it's likely that your racist ass is a white supremacist. Because the mere idea that there's any truth in these stories is gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching. Like I tell you, sisters, watch out who you call your friend and who you join with. Because the white feminist movement was not your problem, was not your movement. That was white women's fight against their men. And as soon as they got some crumbs off of their white supremacist male's table, they said, the hell with you. They was good to go. Case in point, the Republicans would not have been able to take over the House without the vote of white women. White women who were out here screaming and crying about abortion rights being taken and charging black women to join them in their fight about these abortion rights. Turned right around and voted for these white supremacist, racist ass idiots that are in the House right now. Right now.
And that's messy.
That's big time messy, bro.
Definitely.
Yeah. And this is what we have to understand, and that what we're up against. Don't let them fool you with a smile. I saw this white woman called the cops on some kids playing around her neighborhood because they were too close to her children. And when the cops came, so she was so kind and smiling and what have you. You're no good racist hussy. What you did was you called a gun on some children. Because anytime a white person calls the cop, they're calling a gun. Don't get that mixed. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs.
Nsoromma.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Yo, what's up, y'all? Vaughn, what's good? Hey, yo. Hey, you there? Denise, yo, what's good? Haran. Hey, yo, Jay, I see you. Hey, yo, what's good? You know what it is, 95.3. We on the radio, The Open Eye. We doing that thing. Ask some questions. We giving up some history. Yeah. Mr. Gibbs, you know what I'm saying? If y'all don't know who he is, he the one dropping that science ridiculously. And yo, people be asking me, what is that? I'm black. I'm black. I'm black. I'm saying that. I'm black. I'm black. I'm black. And you know what I'm saying? So now you know. You know? You know, yeah. All right. Hey, yo. What's good, though?
WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. With Nsoromma.
Yeah.
In the house.
844 WHGE 953. Get this up.
3953. 844-944-3953. Yeah.
I said WHGE 953.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
In the house.
You can spell it out and get us to you, dig?
Yes, indeed. And I was talking about the election and what have you.
Okay.
And you heard me say many times that poor white people and working class white people who vote Republican are voting against their own interests. They're chickens voting for Colonel Sanders. Mm-hmm. Now you have these progressives in our political arena who identify themselves as democratic socialists. All right. Now let me tell you something about democratic socialism. Do you have a Social Security card?
Most likely, yes.
Most likely, yes. Then you're a card-carrying socialist, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because what FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, understood is that capitalism has to have a safety net, because the victims of capitalism are the exploited working people.
Okay.
So what he did was institute programs and what have you that the government provided to provide a safety net for those exploited by capitalism to ensure that they were able to live in the society. Because what's going on now is that basically you see people out there homeless. You know what the deal is? They're being priced out of living. Can you imagine that? Prices are so high places, people are being priced out of being able to survive.
Yeah.
And then let me tell you, democratic socialists, something. Your hardest challenge, the hardest challenge is going to be convincing people that something that is simply just good for them is good for them. This is how whacked these people's minds are. This is how deep the indoctrination is. You live in a society where people have chronic illnesses and can't afford health care, and they don't want free health care. Damn! What is that? Boo! What the hell? You got a chronic illness. Your medical treatment has basically bankrupted your ass.
Right.
And then here comes a politician and says, well, what we need to do is what the socialists Northern Europe are doing, and have free health care and take care of the people. And you say, oh, that's socialism, communism. I don't want that, even though I'm dying from this. Oh, damn, you stupid. How stupid can you be?
Okay, I'm back. Listen, but this is the serious this is a serious thing right here.
Okay.
I seen a project done yesterday on TV, and the guy was talking to the audience of about 60 to 100 people.
Okay.
And what he was saying was he would put up a sign, and the sign was like a S, and then the next sign was like a T, and the next sign was an A, and the next sign was an R, right?
Okay.
And didn't nobody pay attention that he did that. And then he said, okay, it's a piece of paper under all of y'all cheer.
Okay.
And what I want y'all to do is get that piece of paper and draw a circle like this. He drew a regular circle, right? And then he said, he asked the person next to him, he said, draw something in that circle. And then he took and drew something in a circle which he thought she was going to draw, right? And she did it, and then he said, turn the paper over, and he drew what she said, what she was thinking,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then he turned to the crowd and said, okay, I want y'all to do the same thing. I want y'all to pick the paper up, and okay, now draw what you're thinking right now, right? He did it real fast.
Okay.
And then everybody took, he said, now hold it up against your chest. And when they held it up against their chest, he took and drew what he thought they drew.
Okay.
And then when he turned it over, he's like, okay, you turn yours over. And it was a star. And you turn yours over. And it was a star. And then he said, way back in the back, you turn yours over. It was a star. And then he said, everybody turn yours over. They was all stars. And do you know how I got there? Do you know how I got to the fact that he manipulated them to put all that star on in that circle?
Okay, I have an idea of what you're telling me.
Well, tell me your idea.
My idea is when he started out with those cards and spelled out the word star,
right.
He implanted that in their mind.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what the government does to us.
Implants it in our mind.
Right, and we don't know we're getting it subliminally, and we end up doing it for them.
For them. And
Yeah.
we're indoctrinated. And that's why you live in a system of people who can't afford to go to college,
Right.
who don't want free education.
And deny it.
And deny it.
Right. They go, okay, you can go to college, and then you so out of it and so scared and so not willing to take this adventure, because you never was outside your house or outside your block. A lot of people in our neighborhood has never been outside the city or,
Ain't that something?
or outside the state.
Ain't that something? That's sad.
And they 40 and 50 years old.
That's sad, man.
That I was outside the state 17,
Yeah.
15, getting in trouble. I was
Me too. I was started going to New York by myself.
Right.
To visit my grandfather when I was 12 years old.
Exactly. Now, and see, and a lot of people didn't have that to do or be able to do. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Yeah.
And like I said, look, you live in a system of broke people who actively fight and vote for rich people not to get taxed more. How you going to convince these people? Too many people you're trying to fight to give the means of production don't want the means of production because they want to own the means of production, and they think they will one day. No, you're not. And I like to thank the Pink Sun Goddess for breaking that down. Big
Right.
up, sister.
Thank you, sister.
Yes, indeed.
You know what it is.
Yes, indeed.
Keep the information coming and the knowledge growing.
And one of the things I mentioned there was about free education. Right? How did we get here with people being so deep in debt from their education? The hustle is so crazy that the original loan that you paid, that you took out, okay, the interest is now twice as much as the original loan. We call that loan sharking. Fred Sanford called it loan whale.
Yeah.
That's a shot above.
It ain't a shark no more.
It ain't a shark no more. That's a lone whale. Damn. All right. Now let me tell you, and this from Dr. Victoria Alexander, brilliant scholar, beautiful sister.
Victoria Alexander.
Dr. Victoria Alexander.
Dr. Victoria Alexander.
She said, "Did you know that poor and working class families were never meant to use student loans?" How about that? It's not something they like to tell us about. See, in the late 1960s under LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, we got the guaranteed student loans program. And these loans were structured for middle-class families who maybe didn't have all the money to pay for college right off the jump.
Right.
But would eventually have enough money to pay for college over time in a relatively small amount of time with just a little bit of interest. And low-income students would get grant aid that didn't need to be paid back. See, this was part of the civil rights movement at the end of the 1960s to get equal opportunity, which we still don't have. So anyways, it was pretty successful. And then around the 70s and 80s, Ronald Reagan, the Republican demon, made his bastard roast in hell and made the devil sodomize him with a pitchfork. Said that that's enough. That's enough poor people and black people in colleges and universities. We're going to have to do something to make this harder. But we're not allowed to openly discriminate based on race anymore. At least not obviously. But more black people and people of color are poor. So the thing to do is just do it based on class and it would have a similar effect. And Reagan's advisor said, but Ronald Reagan, isn't that going to hurt poor white people? Yeah, but it hurt black people and people of color more, so I don't give a damn. You hear that, poor white people?
Wow.
He didn't give a damn. Because it's going to hurt black people, so some of y'all are collateral damage.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he did as a result of Reagan's rhetoric and policies. Federal aid and state aid was cut dramatically, forcing low-income people who wanted a college education to take out student loans. Yeah. The colleges and universities was like, cool, go ahead. We already know these students are going to get the loans because of the guaranteed student loan program, so we can charge them wherever we want. The government is going to pay for it, and then if these low-income students are not able to pay their loans, the government will make money off their interest. You see? It's a win-win. Colleges and universities get money, the government gets money, poor people lose. And that's exactly how it went down. But you, with your dumb ass, will remain dumb because you don't want a free education. And matter of fact, the little Peasley amount of money that Jim Crow Joe Biden forgave, $10,000, now you got these racist Republican judges, what do they call it? Not restricting, putting a ban on these student loans being forgiven. That's what they're doing. And then, that leaves the people in debt. Now, what happens when you're in debt and your back is up against the wall? The wolf is at the door, and you got to do something to alleviate what's going on. You turn to the underground economy because that's all they left you. And what happens to you when you get in the underground economy? You're going to jail.
Dead.
Or you're going to the mortuary.
Right.
That's word. And this is what happens. And then what happens when you go to jail? When you go to prison? Those same people that wouldn't hire you
get paid for you being there.
Get paid for you being there.
And that's messy, man.
Yeah.
That's messy, man.
Okay. Now,
okay, when I'm like, well, what you think possessed them to be so upset with the black people that they just designed this?
Well, part of it was fear. Part of it was the war mentality that they came from in Europe. Because remember, before the Europeans came in contact with other peoples,
right.
They murdered each other wholesale. Especially the women. They were, you knew how to make his cold go away? You did? How did you do that? Because it wasn't authorized by the church. So how was you able to make his cold go away? You know what? You're a witch. And what we're going to do, you're going to admit that you're a witch, okay?
Right.
Or we're going to prove it. And the way we're going to prove it is we're going to tie a boulder to your legs and throw you in the lake. And if you don't come up, then you're innocent. You weren't a witch after all. I'll be damned. But if you come up, you're a witch and we're going to kill you anyway. Yeah, this is the craziest, man. And this is their mindset. You got to remember, France and England fought a war for 100 years. It's famously known as the 100-Year War. And these were Europeans against Europeans.
So
right?
Our war is more than 100 years.
Huh?
We got a more than 400-year war going on. And so,
yeah, well, America's been, what?
I'm
America's
talking about black people. It ain't
yeah.
Our war is longer than any of the wars that...
Yeah, the war that's been waged on black people.
Wow.
All right? A part of that war.
Wow.
All right? And to get people in jail. All right? And it goes back to Nixon. Okay? Nixon, one of Nixon's top advisors and a key figure in the Watergate scandal, said the war on drugs was created as a political tool to fight blacks and hippies, according to a 22-year-old interview that was recently published in Harper's Magazine. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. Mm-hmm. And let me give you a little bit on the backstory on that.
Okay.
All right. The anti-war left,
right,
the Black Power movement, and the Civil Rights movement were all joining forces, and they started recognizing that their leadership really was invested and best served by one man, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was able to convince all of these groups that they needed to join forces and fight against the government. That's one of the reasons they killed his ass. The Nixon campaign in 1968, like I said, two enemies. All right? Two enemies. Black people and hippies. And this is what Erickman said. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or to be black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. But we did it anyway, and guess what? It worked. That's what it worked. You know?
That's man.
Yeah. It's messy as hell, bro. That's word, you know? And I tell you, now one of the things I mentioned was the violence amongst whites. Because white-on-white crime was heavily in existence long before the term black-on-black crime even was considered. And I'm going to tell you who the biggest propagator of that, okay? Because let me tell you something, all right? Genocide was a term that was specifically created to express white-on-white crime, okay? It was specifically to explain what Hitler did. Because see, genocide was not something new. Okay, you take the Congo, where the Belgian devil, Leopold of Belgium, was responsible for the murder of 15 to 20 million Africans. And this doesn't count the torture, because they had this rubber tree plant, and rubber was a big, commodity in the early 1900s. Okay, if you didn't make your quota of rubber for the Belgians as a black African in the Congo, they would cut your hand off. Okay,
then you definitely couldn't make your quota.
Then you definitely couldn't make your quota, and they figured that out. So what they would do is they would cut your child's hand off.
Wow.
Take your little girl and chop her hand off. And you know what these bastards do right now in Belgium? You go downtown and whatever, Luxembourg, whatever the city is in Belgium, wherever you're at, and you go to the chocolate store and you can buy chocolate hands, chocolate candy.
Yo, that's messy. I seen that too. That's true. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Adolf Hitler is considered the most evil man in modern history. The history books tell us Adolf was a deranged madman, a murderous freak of nature. Europeans would have us believe Hitler was an aberration, something unusual. Was he? Well, consider this. Hitler studied America's murder and oppression of Native Americans and blacks to learn how to subjugate and murder Jews. Consider this. Europeans or whites depopulated the North American continent of its indigenous people, murdering millions. Whites enslaved, oppressed, raped, and murdered millions of black people. Consider this. Whites would riot, rampage, terrorize, and murder black people, sometimes for their own amusement. Consider this. Black economic success can be a very dangerous thing in America. The Greenwall section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, known as Black Wall Street, being the most tragic example of this. Black Wall Street was a very economically successful black community and was attacked and destroyed by jealous whites in 1921. Hundreds of blacks were murdered. No, Hitler is not an aberration, but evidence of the endemic pathology of the white community and white supremacy. It's the open eye, Patrice Gibbs. We always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority.
Who treat you as an option.
It's the open eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs.
I'm Nsoromma.
WHGE
95.3
FM.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yo, Patrice, what's good? Terry, yo, Terrell, yo, what's good? Haram, yo, thanks for tuning in. You know this on time. We about to blow up, about to bounce out. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, Pat, you got something to say?
Yes, I do. This is how I'm going to end up from now on. I got 3 words for you. Global African supremacy. That's what we need. Peace.
Nsoromma streaming all platforms. Go get that. Yaga.